Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
I used to think of myself as an organized person, and I realized yesterday afternoon as I was doing work in my house that I was so inefficient. I was so extraordinarily disorganized, and as you begin to age, you worry that these things are little precursors to your, I guess we were talking yesterday, Sokolowski, about your continuing diminishment. Hey! Well, guys, there's so much news going on today. I'm not even quite sure where to begin, but we could begin at the beginning. There's some breaking news that we don't know much about at this point. There was a shooting outside of the Empire State Building on the street at 34th and 5th. And last I saw, 5 believed dead, including the shooter. And that's all I know. I don't know anymore. So that's the breaking news. Why am I having trouble? I'm sorry. I'm disorganized. I don't know what the heck I'm so disorganized for. And Lance Armstrong is going to have to turn in his medals. Well, even if he doesn't, he's going to be stripped of them. A nice little sort of ploy he used. He said he was not going to fight these charges anymore. He refused to go to, I guess, arbitration, which is what the governing body had wanted him to do. And he said he was sick of fighting this, and he wanted to devote his time to, what do they always say? Family. That's right. But as a result, no matter what he says, it is certainly widely believed that while he will not admit guilt, that's what it means. The agency that has the authority to take his medals away, or at least, I don't know if they have the authority to take the medals away, but who the heck knows? I don't understand the bureaucracy of this, but this is the charges that he has now surrendered to are brought by the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. So he's going to lose, even though he says this is no admission of guilt. The doping agency says that it has overwhelming evidence that he was enhanced, so to speak. They say they have lab results that prove it. They have eyewitness accounts and people who have testified. And he is consequently expected to be stripped of his all those Tour de France medals and also be banned from cycling for the rest of his life. I mean, I believe he will be able to get on one of his many bikes and take a little trip on his own, but no competition. What happened on Monday is it was clear to him that he wasn't going to be able to fight this, so he just he got out while he could. I am totally unsurprised. I have suspected before even anybody was whispering about it much, because, and also it is such a dirty sport. I mean, I wonder how far back you have to go to get a winner who was actually not somehow doped. Amazing. So that's, I think for some people it's going to be a very, I know people for whom this will be a huge blow, that they really won't be able to believe it, and will in fact, due to our great capacity, which we have certainly found out by watching the Republican Party disintegrate, the amazing ability of human beings to engage in magical thinking, to create their own realities when the reality that actually is too uncomfortable. And consequently, I have a feeling a lot of those folks who have their Live Strong bracelets on and who just adored him are going to be unable to. You know, it's too bad. My sense is that he's probably such an extraordinary cyclist who might have won on his own. I don't know. But the thing that's most unsettling to me is that I don't believe him, and how he can lie. So, I mean, lie, not only say he didn't, but to say it with such outrage, and then I begin to think that maybe he's engaged in magical thinking, that he actually has maintained his innocence for so long, and because the kind of doping tests that did exist, I guess, failed to catch him, that he's able to maybe even tell himself that he never did any of this. I don't know. Maybe just 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to understand how somebody could disregard their own behavior or what they know to be true. And now I know that it's rather easily done because we've seen it play out so much, as I said, in our politics. Okay, that's it for that. So I hadn't watched any local news, and I happened to have a television on. So I saw the 11 o'clock local news. I was watching, what was it, Channel 11? My God! That was a great, that was a made-for-TV story, the kidnapped baby. Did you see that, Jess? Oh, that's right. You were walking from Squirrel Hill to Lawrenceville, which is admirable. I don't know another person who at 8 p.m. standing on, Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill, way up in the shopping district, would say, well, I think I'll walk. That's good. Good for you. Oh, that's a schlep. Man. Although it sort of makes me think I should do that more often. I should, we just jump into our cars without thinking. I could walk to the Squirrel Hill shopping district. I have, walked to the movies in Squirrel Hill. But that's nothing like what you walk. Wow. Good for you. Well, I couldn't believe this. So I saw a headline saying that this SOB, this nutcase fascist in Norway who blew away 77 people, almost all of them young people. Remember, on that island? That's after he bombed a building on the mainland and then went to the island and just blew away these kids at a camp. 77 of them. He's been sentenced. And the first headline I saw said he was sentenced to 21 years. And I thought, what? 21 years? For taking 77 lives? That's, I'm not a hang-em-all kind of a person, but what does that break down to? He got like 1 year for every, what? I can't do the math in my head. 3 lives or even more? No. So 1 year for 3 or 4 murders? And it's premeditated. It's first degree. And then I got into the studio and I looked up a bigger story, and I'm a little less freaked. It turns out by law, by Norwegian law, 21 years is the highest. That's it. There's no life in prison. There's no capital punishment. 21 years is throwing the book at him. And then, as it turns out, they threw the book at him, Norwegian style, 21 years for killing 77 people, but also sentenced him to what they call preventive detention. And that essentially means that when the 21 years is up, he can be adjudicated sort of in some other way again, and lo and behold, it can then be decided that he is too dangerous to be released. And so the Norwegian legal experts are saying that despite what looks to an American eye like a ludicrous sentence, he will, in all likelihood, spend the rest of his life in prison. He was declared sane enough to be held responsible. Oh, God. Here's a better little story before we get to some of the biggies. Kathmandu. This is in Nepal. A man was bitten by a cobra. And needless to say, he didn't like it. He was in his rice paddy, just minding his own business, and a cobra bit him. And he went racing. The cobra bit him and then slithered away. He went racing after it, caught it, and killed it. It is how he killed it that is so, I don't know, cringifying. He returned the favor. He bit the snake to death. I don't have a lot of... I could have killed it with a stick, he said, but I bit it with my teeth because I was so angry. He bit it he had to keep biting and biting and biting. I don't know what... He survived. He is not going to die. And there was some chance that he would be charged with killing the snake. So the Nepalese do not have the sort of easy kind of criminal justice system that the Norwegians have, for instance. So he, the victim of the snake bite, and in fact, the snake who was the original perp, there was a chance that he could have been charged with killing a snake, but in fact, he was lucky because the kind of cobra that he bit to death is not on the endangered species list in Nepal. Here's another little one that might have passed your notice. I doubt that any other people than my audience, than you guys, are as aware, as cognizant of a little country in Africa called French Guinea. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know something about French Guinea because, as you know, a gentleman named Gustavo Envela has, in the past, run minute-long, I don't know what they call them, commercials, infomercials, I guess, about his efforts to get the tyrant at the head of his country to disappear in some manner, and for Gustavo Envela to return to his homeland where he cannot go for fear of being killed, to run for the presidency himself. This is a tiny little country. There's not even 1 million people in it. In the 60s, I believe, they struck oil, and so it became one of these extraordinarily oil-rich nations. Problem is, of course, all the money that oil has brought into that country has been absconded with by the family of the president and also by, buddies of his and certain people that are in cahoots with him. Well, there was a big story in the New York Times international section today about the fact that this Obiang, that's the president's name, that his son, there's a warrant out for his arrest. There is also, I guess, a charge in France. France has charged, remember this is French Guinea, this was a French colony, so there's still a lot of ties to France. But the French have charged him with embezzling his nation's money and buying properties in France with it. And according to one of the lawyers, he says the looting of public funds is quite spectacular. Let me give you some for instances. The son, I believe, I'm not sure if it's the son or the father. God, these guys are disgusting. They have a 5-story building in a very chic part of Paris bought by this oil money. Get this. This is where they live on the occasions that they go to Paris. The building has 101 rooms, including a Turkish bath, a hair salon, 2 gyms, a nightclub, and a movie theater. It was described in French newspapers as a treasure trove with furniture worth as much as $50 million, including bathrooms with televisions and gold and jewel-encrusted fixtures and huge dinner tables that were always set in expectation of, I don't know, welcome guests. The French have seized 11 cars belonging to the son. He had 11 cars. He had 2 of the most expensive cars in the world, and I can't pronounce them. It's some kind of a Bugatti. And also had, of course, Aston Martins, Rolls Royces, Maseratis, Ferraris, yabba-yabba-yabba. And there's a picture of all these cars being hauled out. It had a huge wine cellar, including some of the most expensive wines in the world. And get this, a $3.7 million clock. Meanwhile, as you've heard from these spots that Gustavo Envela has bought on the show, the people of the country live in absolute poverty. It's a country of 780,000 people. If you sold all this crap and then handed out the proceeds to every man, woman, and child in French Guinea, they'd all be very well to do. I haven't even begun to tell you what they've got. I mean, they have Degas, they have Rodins, they have all this art. They bought, the son bought up a huge part of the Michael Jackson auction. And he bought a big house in Malibu. And he's now facing civil forfeiture in the U.S. According to the Attorney General, I think of Florida or California. No, it'd be California. He said that this younger Obiang lived the high life while his people suffered, purchasing a Gulfstream jet, a Malibu mansion, and nearly $2 million in Michael Jackson memorabilia. He also had spent $315 million on properties and luxury goods. Wow. Well, let me listen to what his attorney said in his defense. I would get rid of this attorney as fast as I could. Here's what the attorney said in his defense. He earned money in accordance with the laws of Equitorial Guinea, even if those laws don't comply with international standards. No, international standards calls those laws crimes. Jeez. Now, I normally wouldn't have spent any time looking at that story, but because of Gustavo's presence on this program, I did read it. And Gustavo, if you recall, I had him on as a guest once, is from a highly placed family. His father was his father the ambassador to the U.S., I think, at some point, yes. And that family, it ran for its life. So I always feel like Gustavo, it seems like he's tilting at windmills, but who knows? I mean, who knows? Of course, what keeps these tyrants who just destroy their nations in power are the oil companies. And I guess you could say all of the oil-addicted people on the globe who need the product, and that includes you and me, obviously. So it's just a little tidbit that feels like it comes home, because Gustavo Envela now lives in Mount Lebanon. He'd rather be in French Guinea. I keep saying French Guinea. I mean Equatorial. Did it used to be called French Guinea? I meant Equatorial. But that's just another instance of my diminishment. Okay, let me get a break in here. When we come back, I want to talk a bit about this ACLU suit that was announced yesterday against the Pittsburgh Police. And it alleges that black candidates are denied the kind of easy path to entry into the department that apparently is available to an awful lot of white guys who know the right people or whose daddies or uncles were on the force, and that it's such a system corrupted by cronyism, I'm having a sense that there are very few Pittsburghers hearing these words that are going to have trouble believing in the possibility of this. There's such a corruption of cronyism and nepotism that black recruits, and who, even though they may score high on the tests and in every way appear to be stellar candidates for the police academy, are routinely denied. So let's talk a little bit about the facts in that case and the import of it. I couldn't help but note that our great mayor, Luke Ravensall, whatever his name is, dismissed the entire thing as what? Oh, see, I say I couldn't help but observe, and then I blanked on it. He dismissed it as a frivolous, get this, frivolous publicity stunt. What? What's frivolous about a corrupted police department that routinely finds itself in trouble with the African American community here? And a department which obviously would maybe do a little better in the African American community if it had anywhere near a proper representation on its force of the African American population in the city. And it does not. No brainer. Frivolous. God. I mean, of all the words, frivolous, it ain't. All righty. Email me if you want, Lynn at pghcitypaper.com, or call at 316-3381. Why do I say that? Because now a guy's going to say the same thing, isn't he? Is that what happens every time I go to a break? A guy says that.
Yes.
Yeah, so why do I say it when I go to a break?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense at all. You know, I've been doing this for over 30 years. You think I'd figure it out by now. Again, I'm diminishing. I'll be back, I think.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Here we go. Pittsburgh City Paper's annual preview is available now. Get your black and gold fix from Pittsburgh's arts, entertainment, dining, and sports source in the Burgh. Pittsburgh City Paper. Available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
My greatest pleasure is reading. I'm reading all the time. All the time. If I'm not reading, I'm asleep. And then in my dreams, I'm reading. The thought that this great pleasure in life is, not available to an unbelievable number of people because of all kinds of, reasons. But at some point, a lot of people say to themselves, I've got to read. My inability to read is keeping me from the life that I want to live. And so those people contact the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council, and they say, please help me to read. And the Literacy Council is in the terrible situation right now of having to say, oh, yes, of course, we want to, but we're a little short on volunteers right now. And because the way to do this is we pair you with a specific volunteer, one-on-one, so that you will learn to read. And we have a waiting list now. We're going to have to put you on that. Come on. You all read. What are you doing right now? I mean, I don't mean to browbeat you into volunteering, but I do want to say, this would be such a good thing. It'd be a good thing in every way. First of all, the Literacy Council teaches you how to teach. And as I said, you're paired with somebody. Don't worry. You don't have to be a teacher. And they provide support for you if you are, running into trouble or whatever. Please think about it. They say it opens up a life. and that you would have that power to open up a life. But the life you open up will also be your own, because you will be reaching out. And it's only through reaching out that our lives become more wonderful and fuller. So I'm like offering you a bouquet here. Why don't you call the Literacy Council? Think about it, but call the Literacy Council. It's not like a 40-hour work week. It's probably a few hours a week, if that. I don't know. Call them up. It's 412-393-7600, 393-7600. And you can also just go online at Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council. Just use the first letter of each of those words, gplc.org. Think about it.
Howard Allen Events returns to Walnut Street in Shadyside. The 15th annual Shadyside, the art festival on Walnut Street, will be held August 25th and 26th, transforming this popular shopping district into an outdoor art gallery with an eclectic mix of the country's top established artists, as well as new and emerging talent. Admission is free and open to the public. Showtimes are Saturday 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. For more information, call 412-682-1298 or log on to www.artfestival.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All right, back to this ACLU suit. God, I wish the ACLU well in this one. Because of the obvious... I mean, all you have to do is look at the Jordan Miles situation, okay? 3 white cops patrolling Homewood, jumping this nice kid, ruining his life, yeah? And further destroying any trust that might still have existed in that community for the police. I'm not saying that 3 black officers trained in the same way wouldn't have made the same mistake. I don't know. But the odds are that anyone with half a brain comes to the determination that having a police force that reflects the makeup, the racial makeup of the community, would be a really good idea. And of course, experts in the field say that the wiser police departments, the better police departments around the nation, have recognized that this is like the basic ingredient for having a police force that is going to function well and can best serve and protect, which is what they say they're to do. And that is their mission, to serve and to protect. The reality is that Jordan Miles needed to be protected from the police that night. That's inside out, and it's upside down. So we're going to learn a lot more about how you get into the police department, the process that goes on. And there's a lot of areas in the process that are not objective at all. I've got a stray hair that's driving me crazy and I can't find it. Excuse me. Where was I? You know, you think, oh, well, they take a civil service exam. That's totally objective. Well, maybe it is. Okay, so they take a civil service exam. There's an oral part to it, and there's a written part. The ACLU suit alleges that some of the white applicants have actually been tipped off ahead of time as to what the questions or scenarios that they will be presented with during the oral part of the entry process will be. None of the black guys got that courtesy. That during the physical part of the test and evaluation, that whites doing sit-ups are sort of given, you get your head halfway off the ground and they count it as one. And that in the running part, officers might run next to a flagging white recruit and urge him on. The same never applies to the blacks. The plaintiff here, the ACLU is obviously representing some of the African Americans that have been, well, I guess, not made it. What's the word? When you wash out? Is that what it's called? No, I don't think that's it. Whatever. Listen to one of them, James Foster. Okay? He's African American, college graduate. He worked as for a company providing assistance to mentally disabled clients. When you got through all the testing stuff, the civil service test, the physical tests, he was number 3 on the list that got sent to the chief, or what's called the Chiefs Roundtable. This was last year. He was number 3 on all of those more objective, although as we find out, even the objective parts are a little squirrely. And in this Chiefs Roundtable, this is where it's just totally subjective. A bunch of people, I guess, at the top sit around and, okay, where he's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. They can reject a qualified candidate for any reason whatsoever, and they don't owe any explanation to anybody. This guy who was 3 on the list strangely got passed over. He didn't make it. 32 others jumped ahead of him and into the police academy. 32 people who didn't score as high as he did. There is no credible explanation. And this doesn't happen. I mean, this is not the only time this has happened. Obviously. So that you end up with situations where if you know someone, if there's a cop already on the force that knows you, your chances of getting in are extraordinarily high. Nepotism, cronyism, if you're related to somebody. More than 83% of officers are white. Only 68% of the residents of the city are white. And since 2001, get this, I mean, in the last 11 years, just 14 African-American police officers have made the force. That's essentially 1 a year. In a city that is 26% African American, it is, in fact, unconscionable. But, of course, Mayor Ravenstahl dismisses the whole thing as frivolous. I don't think so, personally. And if you want to apply the term frivolous to anything, it would be to the mayor's statement. A frivolous reaction to a very serious issue, which will only further focus negative attention on the police force. Now, I'll tell you, the cops did a bang-up job last night, though, with this baby that got absconded with from Magee. 3-day-old baby. I'm assuming you guys know the story, but because there's something in the story though that I don't understand. One of the ways they tracked this is, well, obviously they had video and stuff like that. They went to one of these uniform supply places on Forbes in Oakland, right near Magee, that sell all those ugly things that people who work in scrubs, they're called, right? I've never understood why they can't find some good-looking, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be fancy. I'm sure you can still keep the pattern, but I mean the style, do that. But why does it have to be this ugly stuff when you know what I mean, the patterns. Yeah? It's just hideous. I would not even take a job that required me to dress like that. It would be depressing. Anyway, so this woman who absconded with the kid, allegedly, went over to buy some of the right scrubs so she could finagle her way onto the maternity floor. And this is what I'm confused about. The woman who waited on her was interviewed on television last night, and she said she gave me her name. I got all the information from her as I was supposed to, so she was given a name. It turned out to be not her name. It turned out to be the name she gave was a name of a totally innocent young woman in Wilkinsburg who was in her bedroom listening to music when the cops banged on her door. And she got hauled down to the police station for 3 hours because that was the name that had been given at the scrub store. Why, in making a purchase, I've never been asked my name. She paid in cash. The woman said she gave her name and all the, she got all the stuff that she needed, and then she paid with cash. What is it about buying one of those ugly things with teddy bears on it that you have to give your name? Why? You have to work. You have to work in a hospital? What does a name tell? I don't understand it. The woman said, who bought it, that she was starting training at Magee. Now, if she was, I can see where you'd ask for a maybe hospital badge or something. But why? It's just scrubs. You mean if I want to buy one of those ugly things for some reason, I don't know. If I go there, I have to give them that personal information? I'm just asking if anybody understands that part. That is so confusing to me. I don't get it. Why that? I don't know if anyone else got hung up on that, but I sure got hung up on it. I mean, it's hardly like you're buying syringes or something. You're just buying one of those ugly tops. Why would you be required to give a name? And even if as Jess suggests, maybe they give a name because they need to know you're affiliated with a hospital or something, I don't know. Why then would that name be checked before they let you get out the door with one of those ugly tops? But the cops did a fine job. I mean, that was good cop. They did all the right things, and in fact found this crazy 19-year-old with the baby in a stairwell in the investment building on 4th Street. How odd! How totally odd. And then she's shown getting out of the police car. And she looks strangely thrilled to be in the, on the news. She's sort of laughing, and she managed to say as she walked by the cameras that it's all your fault, Mom. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that's what, it's all your fault, Mom. And then I think she added her father as she walked by. Yeah, well, fine. So this is just another idiot who will be feeding and housing for a very, very long time because this is clearly first-degree kidnapping. Unbelievable. But it was funny watching the news. I'm fascinated now. Every once in a while I sneak a peek at the news. The national news, too. It has gotten so tabloidy and so soft. The network news has stories on it that 10 years ago would never, ever, ever have made the show. A lot of celebrity crap. A lot of, People magazine crap. Very little things having to do with anything international or serious. And if it's serious, it's handled very quickly. It's really, unless people read, they don't have a clue of what's going on. Anyone who gets their, let's say they get their news from the network news, you don't know anything. And then if, you get your news from Fox, you know even less than nothing. You're getting all kinds of skewed perspective. It's really something. And on local television last night, given what news has come to be, they put on a hell of a show last night with this story. It was just made for the new kind of local news. Team reporting, going to here, going there, and with the suspect, and with a happy family, and on the police, and now we'll look at security at Magee, and the anchors standing next to screens, and with these dramatic kinds of intros. All of this created by consultants who tell them how, everything is nothing is ever past tense. It's always present tense and right in your face. And isn't that amazing? And the one thing they do, though, that I can't figure out is why do they, going to a reporter, you're an anchor and you're saying, and so, has the story. They say, I don't even know the names of any of these reporters anymore. Our Kelly Jones has the story. Our has the story. What does that mean? And what's this thing where you can't get even one word out without saying, as you saw or heard first? Here, I hate it. I can't watch it. But I have to say, last night with this missing baby thing, they did a bang-up job over at Channel 11. I was on the edge of my seat, and mostly because I hadn't seen the story at all, so it was new to me. And I thought they put on a hell of a show. And literally, that's when you could see that news, as it exists now, television news, is entertainment. That is all it is. It is entertainment. Hello, caller.
Hello, Lynn. This is Beth calling.
Hi, Beth.
Hello. I just wanted to say, actually, I have to commend the local news on the baby snatching of yesterday.
Okay. What did you see or hear? Or
Well, just from this standpoint, and that is the police, I was surprised that the police didn't issue an Amber Alert sooner. Or one, I don't even know if one was even issued.
I'm not aware
that it was. I give credit
to
the local news at least breaking in and, letting it be known that this child was kidnapped before an Amber Alert was issued, or formally issued.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the MTV style of national and local news, it's an absolute joke. But the other thing, too, I have to say that was surprising was I think it was PXI that was actually at the uniform shop.
Yes, that's where I saw.
The police who waved them off like, get away, get away.
Oh, okay.
They got there before the cops, I guess is what it was.
Huh.
In questioning the sales clerk.
Yeah, well, PXI is who I saw, and they really did. It was a bang-up job. It did. It covered every aspect.
For as bad as they've been, and I criticize media just as much as you do, on this one I have to say their people did a really good job.
But do you have any sense of why you would have to give your name to buy one of those hideous scrubs?
No, I have no clue. Because I know friends of mine have purchased them for wardrobe and things like that, and I don't think they've ever had to give their names. You can buy it at Gabe's for crying out loud.
But that's how they got to that's how this poor girl, the name she gave was of this poor girl in Wilkinsburg. So it's interesting because this 19-year-old who did the kidnapping, she seemed like just a total idiot, but she was no total idiot. How did she know that you had to cut those things off the baby's ankle because it would beep if she tried to get off the floor with the baby? How'd she know that?
She's been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy. I have no clue. I just, and as far as the name, the only thing I could think of is I wonder if that store doesn't have some sort of agreement with either UPMC, the university, the area schools, that maybe they get a certain discount if they work for a certain,
But then wouldn't give a name? You'd have to show a ID.
One would think, but who knows? Oh, also, I wanted to let you know, I received a Romney call last night for polling.
Yes.
And it was fun.
Oh, so you did it.
Oh, I did it. I could tell first of all, it came up family media research, so I kind of had an idea who was calling. And it was about 15 minutes. I could just tell by the way the questions were slanted. This was definitely a Romney-supported poll.
Right.
And boy, did I eschew that thing.
Did you?
Because I knew the first couple questions is they're trying to get you, to find out where you fit on the political spectrum. So I made sure that was all over the place. And then they asked questions on a scale of 1 to 100. Where do you rate the selection of Paul Ryan?
How'd you rate it?
And of course I put 1.
Okay.
They asked also as far as are you in favor of gay marriage? Again, said 100%. They asked, did the comments by the Republican, Aiken in Missouri, has that affected your view of the Republican Party?
Ha! No, it just confirmed my view of the Republican Party.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
But it sounded as though, I have to say, the poll, I think, was definitely being conducted. It was either an all-Indian workforce somewhere here in the United States, or was definitely being conducted in Mumbai. So when the lady asked the question about outsourcing of jobs, how important is that to you? I really had to bite my tongue hard on that one.
Well, it's obviously pretty important to you because you got a good job that should be Americans. Unbelievable. Well, you've got more. I see those things and I never even pick up. Oh, God.
Well, again, I thought it was going to be a Republican bent, and I thought, well, I have nothing else better to do this evening. I think I'll have a little fun.
It's all entertainment.
It is.
Yeah.
Hey, have a great weekend, Liz.
You too. You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. This is from PJ. He said, okay, you're confused about whether giving names to buy a top. Here's what's confused me in recent news stories. He says, they busted a guy in Ireland who has MS for the pit bomb threats. Some were emails, but some were written on mirrors in the bathrooms. How the hell did this Irish guy with MS write bomb threats in the bathrooms? Okay, here, I do know the answer to this, I think. The bathroom threats came before. Those were the first threats, the bathroom threats, the written ones, physical ones. That was somebody else. This guy in Ireland trolling around on his computer sees that there are bomb threats that are emptying out these buildings at this university. And he thinks, hey, this is right up my alley. This is what I do. Only I do it in a much, much better way. And then he started to do his thing. He would easily get all the information he would need about the Pitt campus. And then he started sending his emails. And I think he sent many of the emails right to actual, like to television stations here and the and also to the newspapers here, which is how he operated over in Ireland and Scotland as well. He would send the emails often to media outlets. But I believe, there were a few kind of copycatish things going on. Whoever did those first ones maybe was trying to get out of a final exam. I don't know. I don't know if they know who that is. Or is that who what they're charging these guys from Ohio with? Remember, there's 2 guys from Ohio who've also been charged. Anyway, it was more than one perp, but the biggest perp was the Irish guy in terms of the constancy and, I guess, what appeared for a long time to be the brilliance of his method, because the cops and all the forensic guys just couldn't crack it. They couldn't find him. But they eventually certainly did. So I think, there is more than one person afoot here. So he did not write bomb threats at Pitt physically. He did them from the comfort of his wheelchair. Do I have to take a break? Yes. Jesus! God, excuse me. I didn't mean it. Yes, I did. Goodbye. Be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, the History Museum, Carnegie Museums, and some of the best restaurants in Pittsburgh. This week, get 50% off tickets to the Pittsburgh Irish Festival. bergbargains.com. Local deals, local merchants. bergbargains.com.
Get Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
Howard Allen Events returns to Walnut Street in Shadyside. The 15th annual Shadyside, the art festival on Walnut Street, will be held August 25th and 26th, transforming this popular shopping district into an outdoor art gallery with an eclectic mix of the country's top established artists, as well as new and emerging talent. Admission is free and open to the public. Showtimes are Saturday 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. For more information, call 412-682-1298 or log on to www.artfestival.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, Dana writes, Lynn, thank you for discussing how poorly the news is covered anymore. Unless someone from our area dies, you wouldn't even know we were at war in Afghanistan. Hey, you would think, okay, well, at least the network news would be covering that, right? They're not. You can watch the network news, too, and you wouldn't know there was a war. Believe me. You wouldn't know much of anything. Believe me. Well, Dana knows. She goes on to say, you watch the news, you wouldn't know we are at war in Afghanistan or contemplating war in Syria. I don't believe that for a minute, by the way. I think any rumblings the president is making about that is being made to undercut its campaign crap. I think it's being made to undercut Republicans, charging him with somehow being soft or whatever. That's my guess. There's no way. No way. Although, what do I know? So Dana just goes on and says all the things, that we've got troops in Africa now, or we might end up with war with Iran. You got Israel apparently getting closer to making a preemptive strike. I read a very unsettling piece on front page New York Times today, which I, too, failed to talk about the fact that this enrichment going on in Iran now is believed to be really, really getting up. And all that stuff that was done to try to scuttle their efforts, it may have stalled it a little bit, but even it's not just the Israelis now who are saying, hey, these guys are getting close. They really are. And the story was about them ratcheting up with intensity and speed what they're up to. And what they're up to clearly is the ability to have nuclear weaponry. And that is one crazy crowd to have that. It is unsettling. Dana says, I simply watch the news to catch one of the 6 times an hour weather spots. I get most of my news, she says, from Huffington Post and ABC News Online. I hope that the paycheck the anchors on our 3 news stations receive actually reflects the lack of news they report. They should be writing gossip blogs. You know, by the way, I'll tell you, the people that are, I feel for the anchors and the reporters at the local and national level, because I don't know many reporters anymore unless they're old reporters. But I know many of these people. I certainly know most of the older anchors. By older, I mean the ones who've been around. And they are, to a man and a woman, bright, truly bright, well-educated, capable, and I am sure that they're every bit as appalled. I sometimes wonder how they can... They're getting paid very well, I'm sure, but guess what? They're getting paid less than they were 5 years ago, and less than they were 4 years ago, and less than they were 3 years ago. These TV stations are just squeezing them, even though the stations, with all those political ads, are making money hand over fist. But this is the way it's working in every field now. Every field. The workers, even if they're a glamorous anchor, ain't going to be making anywhere near what the glamorous anchors were making 15 years ago. And I think I've said this before. You'd be shocked. You talk about the PAT Authority bus drivers having to give back. Well, some of the fancy schmancy people who you think have, tons and tons of money and their paychecks must be unbelievable, they've been giving back too. As a matter of fact, the way it used to work is you had, at least when I was in it, you had at least a 3-year contract, pretty much total security. They don't give these people, these companies, the biggie companies that own all these stations now, they don't give them contracts anymore. They're working with nothing under them at all, except, maybe, if they belong to AFTRA, the union, they've got a little bit of it, but there's very little a union can do if a station pulls an anchor off, because there's so much subjectivity involved. Well, our research showed blah, 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 blah. They can't be very happy on the job, no matter how they look on your TV, all chipper and earnest and serious. I can't imagine morale being anything but appalling. I just in the pits. And it's not as though I've talked to any of them about that. I haven't. I just can't imagine that it would be anything other than that. And I laughed to myself because when I was in television, like at Channel 4, like 25 years ago, we were always grousing about, management and how hard we were working and how we weren't able to do the job we really wanted to do. And I got to tell you, when I now look at our conditions, our compensation, and the news we put on, it was 1,000 times better than what is happening now. What's happening now is they're listening to police scanners. That's why half the news is things that don't impact you at all. Car crashes, fires, fire hydrants. I mean, that's what it is. It's nothing about the news that you might need to know. And so it's cheap and easy and ideally visual. Fires, water main breaks, and anything else that there's pictures to go with. So this story last night, the baby snatching, was a gift from God, because it actually was a story of interest to the community, even though if the major impact was one family. But it was a hell of a story, and the blanket coverage they gave it was I thought, reasonable, and it was okay. But the network news, all you have to know is, I mean, they're talking, it's this hurricane all the time now. And, will the Republicans, have to bring out their umbrellas and, not have a great day at the beach? When, of course, it's bearing down immediately now on Haiti, where these people are still living in paper bags or something, left over from the last cataclysm and catastrophe. And a real news operation would have, of course, focused on them somewhat. People who are really in harm's way, as opposed to, will Ann Romney have to give her speech on Tuesday instead of Wednesday? Tomorrow? I'm done, aren't I? I've gone over, haven't I? What else is new? Guys, have a wonderful weekend. This looks like a beauty, so do enjoy. Hold on to your babies, and be ready to give a name if you want to go buy an ugly top with teddy bears on it. Okay? Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.